the lantern he could not carry any more. The house was quieter than it had ever been, not because it was empty, but because it was waiting. Morning light rested on the shelves where books leaned into one another like old friends. Outside, the road stretched away in a way that felt newly significant, as if it had always been there, but only now had acquired a name. Her name. The old owl stood by the window, wings folded behind his back. He had the habit of standing like that when he was thinking, not of problems exactly, but of patterns. He believed most truths lived in patterns rather than answers. "You will ignore most of what I've taught you," he said at last, without turning. "And that's how it should be." The little blue bird frowned, unsure whether to protest. The old owl turned then, and his eyes held the familiar mixture of warmth and gravity, like someone who knew both how fragile and how stubborn little birds could be. "When we're young," he continued, "we think wisdom is a map. We expect it to show us where to go and what to avoid. But wisdom is closer to a compass. It doesn't tell you the path. It tells you who you are while you're walking." The little blue bird sat across from the owl, feet covered by her feathers, listening the way she had since childhood, not like a student, but like a traveler gathering provisions. "You're going to meet many creatures and people," he said. "Some will be impossibly cruel, others truly kind. Most will be neither. Remember this, people and other creatures are not their behavior alone. They act from places in themselves they have never visited consciously. When someone hurts you, it often says more about the rooms they refuse to enter than about your worth." He paused, then added gently, "That doesn't mean you must stay where you are wounded. Understanding is not the same as enduring harm." She nodded. That distinction felt important, like a door being named and opened. "There is a part of you," he went on, "that you will try very hard not to see. Everyone has one. It holds your anger, your envy, your fear, your selfishness, and also your untapped strength. Do not exile that part. Invite it to speak, but do not give it the throne. What we refuse to face in ourselves, we meet in aggravated forms in others." At dawn, when the sky had not yet decided what color it would be, the old owl perched on the bare arm of a cedar tree. His feathers held the dull shine of old storms, and his eyes reflected more than the morning light. They reflected learning from exposure. Below him, the little bluebird hopped from stone to stone, restless and light like a thought that had not yet learned where or how to form. "You fidget too much," the owl said. "I'm bored. I need to go. I need to move," the sparrow replied, fluttering upward before settling again. "The world feels loud and slow and too much the same, like it's always moving without moving." The owl tilted his head. "The world has always been that way. You are only just seeing, but not noticing." They lifted together, the old owl's wings slow and deliberate, the bluebird rapid and impatient. The land beneath them shifted as they traveled. Fields gave way to crowded branches, branches to cliffs, cliffs to a valley where wind danced itself into spirals. Below, leaves spun wildly, chasing nothing. "This place pushes me around," said Little Blue. "I don't like being pushed around." The old owl glided into the wind and did not fight it. "Chaos and being pushed is not the enemy of balance," he said. "It is the raw material of it. Watch." He folded one wing slightly, letting the wind dip him, then opened it again, adjusting, not resisting. He glided expertly and effortlessly. "Grounding yourself does not mean seizing," the owl continued. "It means knowing how to move without losing your center." Little Blue folded her wing, faltering, dipping too far, then correcting. It was clumsy, but the air did not reject her. She leveled her flight, breathing harder, but level. They flew on. By midday, they reached a forest where the light fell in broken patterns. Shadows shifted strangely, making ordinary roots look like creatures waiting to strike. Little Blue flew close to the owl now. "I don't like this place. Everything looks like something else." "Yes," the owl said, "this is where many birds turn back." "Why?" asked Blue. "Because this forest shows you what you carry inside. Fear shapes the shadows, so does desire." A branch cracked nearby. Little Blue startled. "What if I fear what's inside?" Blue asked. The owl landed and waited. "You already contain more than you admit. Anger, jealousy, hunger, courage. If you pretend they aren't there, they will speak through your wings without your consent." The owl pecked gently at the ground. "Look at your shadow, your dark impulses. Instead of running from them, accept and take them in. Life begets death, and death begets life. It is the only way. Then things will stop chasing you, you will stop running, and then you can direct the path." Little Blue stood still and took in a breath. Her heart slowed. The forest did not vanish, but it no longer felt alive with threat. They flew again, this time toward a human city. Noise rose like heat. Metal beasts roared below. Glass reflected the sky into fragments. "Here," Little Blue said, overwhelmed by noise and chaos. "Everyone seems to fly in straight lines, to and fro. They look certain, directed. I feel uncertain." The owl circled above a tower. "Most creatures wear shapes they believe will keep them safe. Certainty is one of them." He landed beside Little Blue on a wire humming with energy. "Learn how to perch here, but do not build your nest here. Do not build yourself on applause or approval or chaos as certainty. Exhaustion comes from mistaking performance and moving for being." A gust shook the wire. Little Blue wobbled. "You don't need to be louder to be real," the owl added. "You need to be aligned." At sunset, they reached a quiet shoreline. The sea was restless but rhythmic, pulsing. The sparrow watched the waves. "What if I lose you?" she asked suddenly. The owl's voice softened. "You will. And that is not abandonment, only transition. Life is transition." The old owl stepped closer. "I cannot fly your path for you, but remember this. Awareness is not control. It is attention. Meaning is not found. It is made through how you respond." The little bluebird looked at her wings. They were so small and to her imperfect. But they were hers, and the only way she could fly. The owl took off first, rising into the darkening sky. "Do not try to escape the storm," he called back. "Learn its language, then you can speak to it." Little Blue followed. Below them, the world turned, chaotic, persistent, and alive. And for the first time, Little Blue did not rush ahead or cling behind. She flew within it. The old owl and the little bluebird returned home. Once home, the old owl reached for a small lantern on the table between them. It was old, dented, but meant for real darkness. "This," he said, lifting it, "is awareness. It does not banish the night. It simply makes the darkness navigable." She watched the way the glass caught the light. "What if I lose my way?" she asked quietly. "You will," he said, smiling. "Several times. That is not failure, that is growth. If you learn from it." He sat beside her now. "Your life is not about becoming perfect. It is about becoming whole. Becoming whole is messy. It includes contradiction and pain. You can be brave and afraid, loving and resentful, confident and uncertain, all at once. Do not wait to feel complete before you live." Outside, a car passed, and for a moment the sound felt like a reminder. You will also discover that the world is hungry for masks, he said. It will reward you for being palatable, agreeable, and predictable. Learn how to wear those masks when necessary, but never confuse them with your face. Exhaustion and anger is often the soul protesting a life lived too far from its truth. She swallowed. How will I know what's true? He considered this. Truth rarely arrives shouting. It tends to repeat itself softly over time. Pay attention to what returns to you in your dreams, your longings, your recurring questions and conflicts. The psyche speaks in symbols before it speaks in sentences. He placed the lantern back on the table, pushing it gently toward her. She hesitated. I can't carry that for you, he said. But I can tell you this. Meaning is not something you find ready-made. It's something you build through responsibility, to yourself, to others, to what you choose to love and what you give attention to. The silence between them was full now, not empty. She felt the weight of him leaving, of being alone, but also the strange lightness of being trusted. When you think of me, he said softly, don't imagine me as a voice telling you what to do. Imagine me as a question asking you to look more closely. She stood, and for a moment they simply faced each other. Two beings at different edges of the same river. Go, he said, with a warmth that steadied her. And remember, the goal is not to avoid the dark, but to grow eyes that can see within it. She took the lantern. It was heavier than it looked, but it fit her hands. And when she took flight, she understood that he was not leaving her unprepared. He was leaving her truly loved. Seasons turned without announcing themselves. Little Blue flew alone now, though alone no longer meant unaccompanied. The owl's voice had not vanished, it had simply moved inward, becoming less a sound and more a way of seeing. Storms came. They always did. Once, caught between two colliding winds above an open plain, the sparrow felt the old panic rise, the urge to flee, to flap harder, to escape the sky itself. But instead of fighting, she remembered the valley of spirals. She relaxed her wings just enough to listen. The wind carried her downward, then steadied her, and she rose again. She laughed, a short, quiet sound, realizing something had changed. The chaos had not softened. She had. Later, she perched on the edge of a broken fence where other birds gathered nervously, chirping warnings about the shifting weather, the scarcity of seed, the dangers everywhere. What should we do? One asked. The sparrow did not answer immediately. She felt the ground through her feet, the air through her chest, and the quiet rhythm beneath the noise. We do what the moment asks, she said finally. We observe and prepare the best we can, no more, no less. The others looked at her strangely, then one by one took off. Little Blue remained. She had learned that urgency is not the same as importance. As time passed, younger birds began to linger near her. They did not ask for instructions, not directly. They simply watched how she flew through narrow spaces without haste, how she rested even when the world seemed to demand motion, how she did not startle at the darkness. One day, a fledgling asked, "Aren't you afraid of the dark?" The sparrow considered this. The shoreline returned to her, the waves, the owl lifting into dusk. "I am familiar with it," she said. "Darkness is everywhere. You must be the light within it, not in victory but in acceptance." At twilight, she often perched high, not to oversee the world, but to be with it. Cities hummed below, forests breathed, the sky held both light and its absence without conflict. She understood now what the old owl had meant. Peace was not the absence of chaos, it was the presence of a center. Once, in the reflection of a dark window, Blue caught her own image, feathers worn, eyes clear, posture unforced. For a fleeting moment she saw the owl, her father, there too, not as another bird, but as continuity. She smiled, if a little bluebird can be said to smile, and took flight, not above the world, not away from it, but directly into its movement, carrying within her a stillness no storm could steal. And somewhere, in the turning of the air itself, her father's lessons completed its circle, not as memory, but as lived truth.